You decide, but with time we can find common ground. Get up off your ass, turn your life around. So feed your faith, so your doubts will start, and free your mind. It's really not that hard. So feed your faith, so your doubts will start, and free your mind. It's really not that hard. Black people, give your hope is this past due. Regain the glory that eludes you. Brothers, grab hold and see what I see. Sisters, manifest what's been given through prophecy. Get up, so get your faith, so your doubts will stop, and free your mind. Feeling not that hard. So keep your faith, so your doubts will stop, and free your mind. It's really not that hard. Stand tall, yeah, and be strong. Oh, it's gonna be alright if you believe.
All right. Greetings and salutations, wonderful people in Clubhouse land, wonderful people on Facebook land, wonderful people in YouTube land. Let me see, we got Akoti Yafe, Shalom, Emma Yakira. Thank you for that. I see you on Facebook and loud and clear, so thank you for that. Aki Isaiah, Aki Hamza, Abba Raz Kush, Sister Iris, Akoti Maria, peace, 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 and Abba Yada, peace. So last time that I was on here, we spoke a little bit about some of the required qualities that are in the Anu way, and really didn't push on one of them, but just saying, this is being a man of principle. One should start to move on a set of required qualities, right? So now what we want to do today, we're going to look at one of them, and then we're just going to flow from that space. Now, anytime that you want to be heard, or if you want to add in to the cipher, just hit the button over here on Clubhouse, or add your comment in over here on Facebook or YouTube land, and we'll vibe out like that. But just be patient with me because I got a lot of stuff going on here, so I may be short to get to you, but nonetheless, we'll get to you. All right. So, required qualities. Some of the required qualities that are on the new way is one, being unafraid. And I thought this was significant to pull out just due to some of the conversations that we were having just in our new platform with some of my brothers. I thought this was just significant within just having conversations and dialogue with people. And even when Emma Yakir was building Last Strong, and one of the things was, overcoming the body, and one, being afraid. And it started to make me go along the lines of when I was younger, and I spent the night over a friend's house, right? And I was about 8, something like that. I don't remember how old I was, but we chilling, having a good time, and now it's time to go to sleep, right? And as we're in the room, they didn't have a TV. So I wasn't used to at the time going to sleep in the dark, right? I was used to having some sort of light, some sort of something in the room in order for me to get a good night's rest. So in the event that there wasn't a TV, in the event that there wasn't some sort of light in that room and it was just pure darkness, I was like, nah, I started to freak out. I was like, heck nah, y'all. Like this ain't going down like this. Now, there got to be some sort of light. There got to be some sort of something in here so that I can go to sleep. Now, somebody was looking at me and like, man, there's nothing to be afraid of. You get a good night's quality sleep. There's a nice bed in there. You got a nice pillow. You're good to go, man. You're surrounded by somebody that you know. But when you're trying to explain that to a child, right, there really is no words that you can give the child that's going to get them through. Like, there's nothing in here in the darkness. There's nothing to be afraid of. There's nothing to fear. You're going to have to start to grow and say, you know what, there is nothing in this darkness. And actually, I am okay. And there's nothing to be afraid of. The interesting thing about being afraid, though, as a youngster, is once you understand that there's nothing to be afraid of in the darkness and one is able to go to sleep, they trade that fear for a different fear as they get older. And now all of a sudden they trade being afraid of the darkness starts to look like being afraid of an illness, right? Or being afraid of death, or being afraid of losing a job. And it's nothing that's really in the darkness per se. It's just something that somebody has put into their head, something that is put into their, or somebody now has inculcated into an individual that this is what you should be afraid of. Because if you do not have this, if this is not standard in your life or standard practice, then surely you are going to collapse. You are not going to make it. You are going to die. And one starts to become afraid of these things. So now one starts to acquire different things, right? And it's even that what's that acronym that I think you've heard some people use before, is just having fear. And that's that false evidence appearing real. And ultimately it's false to think that one, if I lose certain things, I'm not going to be able to make it. If I lose this job, this is it, y'all. Like, this is the big one, and I'm not. Please forgive me, my shirt. I swear to goodness, I ran an iron across this thing. I know they're gonna get me for this. Whatever. All right, so one becomes afraid of certain things and certain fear becomes debilitating, where one is not able to move beyond certain circumstances because they become afraid of lack, or they become afraid of being lonely. Oh man, of if I do commit to Anu, or if I do commit to a group, what is my family going to think? Or how is my family, how am I going to be treated? What are some of the things that I'm going to have to answer, and what are they going to start to tell me that ultimately is going to be debilitating for me to move forward? And it's like, but why do you think that you're going to, I've heard people say, you know, I'm alone, but I'm never lonely, which is an interesting phrase, because it lets you know that you're not off from your purpose. You're not off from the creator. You're not off from the most high, because you always feel like you're surrounded. But when one gets off from that and they start looking into worldly things, then one starts to feel like they can be alone. And that false evidence starts to appear like it's real. So even some people not being accepted is a big one, right? Like, what happens if I start to stand up and I start to speak like, you know, Chief be talking and I can't say that because, you know, certain people might not accept me in certain groups. Or if I really start to stand and live on my purpose, then, you know, I may not be accepted into this group or accepted into society, because or society at large, because what are they going to think? And I want to be accepted into some group. I don't want to be by myself. So now one becomes afraid of being who and what they are. But at the same time as one is afraid of being who and what they are, you start to lose yourself, and then you start to hate yourself, or it starts to become, it starts to eat away at the host of you now thinking all of the time that you have lost because you were afraid of not being able to take a chance, not being able to move forward, not being able to do the things that you have done. But really, it's all in your head. And it's like a couple movies that I can think of right now is Nightmare on Elm Street. Right. And then Nightmare on Elm Street. And don't worry, I'm going to get to the one that y'all think you already know. Oh, please trust and believe it's coming. But in Nightmare on Elm Street, they were sitting in the room, and one of the things that, you know, was it Freddy? Whatever his name is, right? He's standing behind him, and he's like, look at me. Look at me. And one of the ways that one was able to overcome was to say, you're not real. You're not real. You're not real. Which starts to let you know that ultimately now, too, you don't see with your eyes, you see with your brain. So now what becomes real to you with your naked eye is ultimately what has been programmed and processed in your brain first. Give you an example. If you were, I don't know, looking at an x-ray, right? And you had an x-ray technician, somebody who was trained to look at something, that they know what they're looking at and they know what they're looking for. And they look at it and say, oh, there's a fracture right here. There's this and that. Now, if somebody who is a novice, who may even have better vision than the person who ultimately is looking at the screen, because they're a lot younger, they got 20/20 vision, but the other person, their vision kind of is decreased over a period of time. But ultimately, because they know what they're looking at, they understand what's now in front of them, because they now have conditioned their brain in order to now, this is what you see. See, when you're looking at this, these are certain things that you have to look for. These are certain things that are going to stick out to you that you should be aware of, that you should be mindful of. And then here are some certain things that, yeah, you don't need to worry about this because that's just a thing. But if somebody has never seen that before, then now it's like, I don't know what I'm looking at. Everything looks fine to me, right? So now, if one doesn't have the teaching as a technician, or if one doesn't have the teachings of an Anu, or if one doesn't have the teachings of a chief, how do you know what you're looking at? And if one doesn't know what they're looking at, then ultimately it becomes whatever somebody else says that's what that is. And you're not breaking things down. You're just accepting things for what somebody else said it was, which becomes very dangerous. And I'll go back to the other, I was going to the movie now. Even in the sense of the Matrix, right? And in the Matrix, it was talking about when there was two actually scenes in there where the first one was when Neo got the phone call when he was in the office. And being in the office, he was telling him in order to get out of the situation that he was in, he was going to have to walk around the building. Now, one of the things that when he started to walk outside and he started to inch around the building, he looked down. And when he looked down, all of his fears, all of his anxiety, all of these things began to rush into his head. And he was like, I can't do it. He dropped the phone and he got taken into custody, right? Because what ultimately was in his mind wasn't in the mind of Morpheus. Morpheus is like, come on, man, there's nothing to be afraid of. Just walk across here. We're going to get you out of there. We're going to keep moving. He wasn't having it though, because he couldn't see that because his mind was socially conditioned to the group that he was a part of. Now, even when he became a part of the underworld, or you per se, or Zion, or when Morpheus had extracted him, they extracted him out of it. And he's now with the other group. They put him back in the simulated system. Now, in the simulated system, man just jumped from one building to the next. Right. And everybody's looking and is like, man, this doesn't normally happen, jumping from one building to the next, especially on somebody's first try, because ultimately it says free your mind. Free your mind. Can you free your mind to the point where you are not so crippled or debilitated on what society now has placed in there, saying of your limitations of what you can and cannot do? Can you go beyond that of just be like, oh, well, I'm a realist. This is just reality. This is just the way it is. And, I'm living in reality. So if I'm living in reality, then reality tells me I'm not going to make it. Right. And that's one of the things, even way back when I first met Chief. Right. And I used to call him when I was in Osiris Life before he kicked me out. All right. All right. So at any rate, before I did, and I used to speak to him on the phone, and one of the things he would ask me to say, hey man, how you doing? And I'm like, I'm keeping my head above water. Like I'm just making it. Because that's, some of the social programming that's been given to some is like, I'm just making it. And if it wasn't for the grace, I wouldn't be here, right? But then he was like, come on, man, you ain't supposed to be keeping your head above water. You're supposed to be walking on water. Can you clear what's in here, though, right? Can you clear all of the doubt, all of the fear, all of the anxiety that one has when really this false evidence that starts to appear real to you is not real? And he's like, you're supposed to be walking on water, man. And I'm like, man, I know what you're reading in the book. Right? But I live in reality. Ain't nobody walking on water. That's not real. Like, what are you talking about? Just keep your eyes on me. Right? It's one of the things that he would say. Just keep your eyes on me. But even in the sense of going back to the Matrix, it starts to tell you what group are you around and who eyes that do you have on that's ultimately programming your brain. Right? So I want to take a look at Ephesians 4:17 out of the King James Version, where it says, this I say, therefore, and testify in the Lord, that ye henceforth walk not as other Gentiles walk, in the vanity of their own mind. When you start getting around certain people, or you start in the social programming is hitting you on every day on all levels. And I even heard Dr. Amos Wilson say, it's like, it's not going to be solved in one lecture or a weekend certification or something of that nature, because you're getting hit with this programming every day, from schools that one has been into in 8 hours, from TV to social media to all of these things that are ultimately programming. But can one not walk as Gentiles walk, of, when you have certain people who say, oh yeah, they look good for their age, right? So now all of a sudden, all you start to see is I now have to shape my body in a certain way in order for me now to be accepted at a certain age, because, they out here killing these 20-year-olds, but not really necessarily looking at the wisdom that one has to pass down. See, that's the vanity of one's mind, the vanity of one's brain that starts to tell them nah, you know what? But now if you don't have it, now you become afraid. Or if you become afraid if I don't look a certain way, or if I don't have this, not knowing that these vessels that we have are ultimately gonna cease to exist. They're not gonna be around. So now, what now is going to make one or motivate one to start to move? And that even starts to make me think of the movie Fight Club, right? It becomes a fight. You start really fighting yourself to say, you know, this is what I want to do, but then all of a sudden your mind will start to tell you all the ways that it can't happen, all the ways that you're not going to be able to move, all the ways that you're not going to be able to climb the ladder, all the things, all the obstacles. It's going to tell you why you should stay stagnant, why you shouldn't start to push yourself past your limits that you have placed on yourself, that false evidence appearing real that you have placed on it. And one of the things in that movie where they meet this a store clerk, and and he's like, "What did you always want to do?" And he says, like, I wanted to go back and do it as opposed to working the job that he had. But you know, again, people have fear of, if I don't have a job and if I don't have income, then I'm not going to be able to survive. I'm not going to be able to make it. And one of the things he put a gun to his head, and he was like, "Get up and move, man." And one of the things that when people start to face some sort of life or death situation, some people start to say, "Oh yeah, this will make somebody move. This will get somebody to do what you want them to do," because out of fear of losing their life, they'll actually begin to move. Now, that made me go to a quote that I seen reading, which we find it on here. It is where you start to look at that gun, and that gun just now becomes a toy. But that toy frightens only someone who has but a single world and many gods, but not one who has but a single God and two worlds. And that's when I started to look at that scene a little differently, and just look at some people being afraid of certain things, or being afraid of, you know, that goes back to serving multiple. The body is going to serve multiple gods if you allow it to, right? So now it's like, I live in this world and I know that this is my only world, so I'm going to try to do everything I can to hold on to it. I'm going to try to do everything I can to make this reality exist. And I don't want to move from it. But now, as if one has not but has but a single God and lives in two worlds, so that enlightenment and transformation of knowing that now I'm in this world but not of this world, or whatever. I think I said that backwards. But nonetheless, now you start to, if your eyes, just like when I told you I had that conversation with Jesus, to keep your eyes on me, keep your eyes on the Creator, keep your eyes on the path. Don't start looking down. And if one starts to look down, then you start to become trapped in this world, and this world starts to give you all of their fears, all of the anxieties, all of the things that you say, you know what, yeah, I don't have. And that becomes almost, in a sense, like that yellow brick road, where now you have the lion looking for courage. You have Tin Man looking for a heart. You have, you know, everybody looking for certain things, because now all of a sudden you're living in a single world but serving many gods. The god of durationalism, the god of materialism, the god of lack. You know, all of these different gods are the trick bags that one can get caught in, or one can get tripped up on. Of saying that, yeah, once you come over here, if you don't have this, then you are not going to be worthy of anything. If you don't have some chains, or if you don't have these certain designer shoes, if you don't have this role in your job, then somebody is not going to look. You ultimately are not being able to provide anything of value, because somebody now has placed value on what you consider to be accepted and what you don't consider to be accepted. And anytime somebody might even ask you, well, what is it that you want to do? Or what is it? And then as soon as you say, oh yeah, you know, this is really what my heart's desires, and then they'll tell you, but that don't make any money. And one can get stuck. One can get tripped up on certain things that starts to tell them, yeah, man, yeah, let me start to pursue other things that are going to now sustain me. That's going to make sense. But that's not what was in alignment with your purpose. What was in alignment with what you wanted to do? What was in alignment with the creator, right? And then one starts to now look for something, which even and Chief has said this before, of, it's like when somebody has the glasses on top of their head, and when their glasses are on top of their head, they start looking for it frantically, or somebody even looking for their keys, and like, oh my goodness, I don't know where I put my glasses. I don't know where I put my keys. And they're running around searching. And then it's like, until somebody slows things down and says, hold on, man, your glasses are on top of your head. Slow it down. Your glasses are on top of your head. See, but now they have fear that I'm going to be late to work. I have fear that I'm not going to make my destination. I have all of these fears, this false evidence appearing real, and now I can't even see what's right in front of me. I can't even see my next step, because ultimately what has been placed in front of me. And if one is going to have fear, I would say fear of the Most High, or fear of the Creator, which now becomes a healthy fear, because that fear is out of respect. Seeing the source. And the source now is going to be my guiding light. And if I get away from this guiding light, if I start moving on one side or the other, then now ultimately I'm going to start serving many gods. And there's so many that one wants to try to get you caught up on, of getting you enticed to, or trying to get you to here, I'm going to offer you all this gold if you just give me your birthright. I'm going to offer you all of this if you just now get hung up on all of these titles and all of these alphabets that go behind your name. One can get caught up in all of that. Come on. But then when all of that's stripped away and you go beyond all of that, your name tag that's on your email address, you go beyond trying to be on TV, you go beyond trying to be all of that, and you come face to face with that soul's reflection, and it's gonna ask, who are you? Who are you? You're going to have to go beyond that. Right? Or the lower three stages of the chakras, of that root of, materialism, that the sacral, which is the search for pleasure and reconnection, or the navel, which is one's own individual identity and personal power. You can get stuck on one of those rungs. And then when one becomes stuck on one of that, even that social, nobody has saved many black boys as I have. When you get stuck on that rung, now when you don't have it, who are you? You become afraid. Then now everything that you do is trying to maintain an identity that you created that ultimately you can't sustain. Now, let's go back to, but one now has to look at who they are around is ultimately what they will become. And what they ultimately will become, which is how many times have you heard me say, one shall become Anu. And what is Anu? That's the people from heaven. This is right out of, and the SM is just salvation model. It's what you see for those of you who are not on YouTube or Facebook. It's just posted on the video. So it's just the salvation model and the people from heaven. And when one is around certain people, there's certain things that one can do. It's like, hold on now, I got to clean myself up. I can't bring in some of the same sicknesses. I can't bring in some of the same things that I used to do, because ultimately that's going to keep me trapped. It's going to keep me heavy. It's going to prevent me from becoming light as a feather, as opposed to when my heart is weighed on that scale. I'm not going to be able to jump from one building to another, because now I'm still holding on to my old identity. That old identity that says what I can't do. That old identity that tells me I should be fearful of this. This old identity that tells me that I shouldn't become what Emma Yakir was building on, and you hear Sister Yafe Sister Maria, that alpha woman, and what that really looks like. Because if I do, then I'm going to give up my identity and my personal power of what I created up until this point. Why would I do that? If I do that and start to talk about, oh, this is patriarchal, then now that's going to upset the status quo, or people are going to start to beat me back into submission. And I really haven't learned what I should learn in order to get to where I need to be. So now it's easier for me to sit in a position where I don't want to move, but ultimately I'm just going to become an online student. And now it becomes a fight. It's like shadow box. Boom, you fighting yourself. And yourself tells you, I know I should start to move, but, and like Chief has always said, anytime you hear that but, it's like you have a higher idea, your higher awareness, and your higher drive. But when you add that in there, but takes you right back to that bottom or talking out your ASS of getting you stuck, getting you debilitated, not having you to move, not having you to do the things that you should be doing in order to get to where you should be. But, and one now needs to start to move. So when we start to look at this, and please feel free to jump in anytime, Emma Yakir. I'm just going to keep moving though. So now, when you start to come into a situation or an organization or a movement like I knew, now we're going to take it back to the King James Version for Deuteronomy 18:9, which is, when thou art come into the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee, thou shalt not learn to do after the abominations of those nations. You can't bring that sickness over here. Like, you're not going to be able to bring that fear over here. You're not going to be able to bring that, I give you a good example. We was on the call, and as we were doing, I'm not going to say the person's name, but Aki Hamza is one that likes to fight, right? And as one was saying, yeah, I teach boxing, and he was like, yo, all right, well, how do you block a hook? And one example came out, and then another example came out, and then they're like, nope, that ain't it. Like, you're not going to bring those sorry behind defense mechanisms that you have learned out there over here. Because one thing that is done over here is attention to detail. And that now I'm going to be unafraid and I'm going to be fearless. And I'm fearless because now I have clarity in my life. And I'm clear on now how to block. I'm clear on now how to duck. I'm clear on now how to swing back. I'm clear on that. And when I'm not clear on that, I'm going to be afraid to get in the ring. I'm going to, in the ring of life, I'm going to be afraid to now step out and do the things that are required of me, or do the things that I'm supposed to do, because I'm afraid of what might happen. Because ultimately, what I have been learning is not really going to protect me or my community or my family. But it looks good to somebody who has not learned. Because ultimately, you don't see with your eyes, you see with your brain. And when somebody now has trained their brain to see what is clearly in front of them, saying that that's going to get you hurt if you do that, you can't bring that over here. I'm going to give you a space now to move and groove, but you're going to have to level up. You're going to now have to move beyond your fear of your annihilation. There was an old lecture that Chief had given about now the key to life is that's not what he said. Somebody else said that. The die before you actually died, only to discover that there is no death. So then Chief had said, that's what I'm mixing the two. He was like, you're supposed to kill yourself out of one reality, only to rebirth yourself into a new reality. That's why so many don't want to become Anu. They don't want to leave that old reality, because really, I'm going to change. I'm going to be different. I may not have the power that I once felt that I had, or the illusion of the power that I had. And guess what? Nobody wakes up in the dawning every day and says, I wish I had less power. They always want to figure out, how can I get more power? I'm sorry, I see you, Emma Yakir. Did you want to get in?
Yes, but I'm afraid. No. Peace.
Peace.
I have to say, I'm like, I didn't even feel like I needed to come up here. Like, your message is so crystal clear and on target. But as I listen to you, and just reflecting on what we were discussing last strong with the body, what are you holding? as you're talking about that fear and even the idea of shadow boxing, you're often we are often shadow boxing with all of those things that we carry that don't even serve us well. And so, like you said, you don't wake up saying, I wish I was less powerful. The illusion is that we have all of this power, even though we're not producing anything day to day. And so to kill that version of yourself, or to let that version of yourself die away, and not feed it again, you have to be stronger than that reality. And you have to be looking beyond where you are right now. And often that isn't what happens. So you used the reference from one of my favorite movies, Fight Club. Yeah, of course, right? Purple Rain and Fight Club. I don't know. But it's like, even the contingencies that were put in place, right? I know the weaker part of me is going to try to do X, so I'm going to put Y in place to prevent this from happening. If you've seen the movie, then you know what I'm referencing. It's like, at the end, no matter what I may say later, I've already connected with a part of me that knows what's best. So it's almost like we have to find a way to put what's best in autopilot, so that it becomes, or routinize it in such a way that it becomes our autopilot. So that, because those thoughts that have long been programmed, they were in us before we were even formed, right? It's just a part of being in this human experience. We almost have to autopilot those other things, like something as simple, right? I know you're talking on required qualities and being unafraid for the Anu man, but the idea of being receptive as an Anu woman. What does it mean to be receptive? Every day. What does that even look like? What does looking into even the root of the word and how it connects to being a vessel. Well, what kind of vessel do you want to be? A dingy, dirty one that, like, what goes in there? Who's going to drink from that?
Come on. Come on.
Exactly. Right. What goes in there? So it's like a dingy, dirty vessel. And you said, but no, I'm good. I reflect a little bit of light. Just enough. But you want all the light. You want it all to myself. It's just me and mine. And that's my light. And the light, of course, is the man, is your head. And so we as women are those receptive, are charged to be, as Anu women, receptive vessels. But if you have shadows or demons, then things are real shady in the corners and dark. And I really just value, what you're bringing forward. Even in your initial example of, I had a TV. Like, I had something that almost blocked me from realizing that I couldn't go to sleep in the dark.
Right.
So you had to have a new environment to help you appreciate, wait, even at 8 and 9, maybe you didn't get it then, but eventually you got, wait, I should be able to move through different realms of reality, So it's like, but that was at 8 or 9. But we're grown people still wanting our creature comforts, our ice cream, our TV shows, and we want everything to be easy and comfortable. But when we look around us, we see what ease and comfort gets us. It gets us a sedentary lifestyle, no family, and alone. So at some point, something has to die in order for the best of us to grow. So I'm just going to mute out and listen, because you were definitely on a roll. But Also, going to be here to support however I can.
Come on now. I appreciate that. And when you was just talking, it made me even think of the song that you heard at the beginning of Feed Your Faith, so your doubts will starve, right? But if you keep feeding and with the group that tells you your limitations, that tells you what you can and what you cannot do, or even being what you just spoke about, Kira, being receptive. But then when somebody, oh no, you don't be receptive, girl. You don't, girl, don't do that. You gotta think about if you're gonna be this gonna happen to you, that gonna happen to you, putting all their fears and insecurities onto you. So now all of a sudden you start to hold on to that and become afraid. That fear starts to now debilitate one of, nah, I can't really take this messaging. I can't really drink this clear water. I'd rather dance with the devil I know than the one that I don't know, because I don't know what's going to happen to me if I accept this and say, you know what, it's time for me to move on. And a lot of times it's because when your eyes get you beat. That's one of the things even in football where if you don't study film and understand that, you know what, you need to now look at the pulling guard as opposed to all of the motion that's going on in the backfield. They call it Dick's motion. All of this stuff is going on, the move and motion and all of that, but they're trying to run a set play. And if you can look past all of that and see the pulling guard is going to take you to the ball. If you don't study, though, if you're not aware of of what's going on, then your eyes will get you beat. So if you don't listen to, this is why I praise Chief so much of just breaking down the psychology of the social programming that goes on so that you can recognize the play, so that you can recognize what is going on in front of you. Because when you recognize what goes on in front of you, the game slows down. Life begins to slow down. Sometimes people are like, oh, it's just my life is moving a mile a minute. They can't even tell you what they ate yesterday. They can't even tell you, did you enjoy your meal? They can't tell you any of it because things are running a mile a minute as opposed to let me slow this thing down. Let me don't think that if I do now commit to certain things, now I'm not going to be annihilated. And if I do, I'm going to be told it's going to be all right. I'm going to feed my faith, which ultimately tells me I need to feed what's up here. That's going to tell me what I'm going to be seeing and what I'm going to be looking at. What are you looking at? Tells me then now, what have you been feeding in your head on a day in and day out basis? And ultimately, what are you following? Now, I know some people are here to model. Some people are here to teach. What are you modeling? And we get so caught up in trying to be a quote unquote individual that keeps us stuck in where we are. We try to be so caught up in pulling ourselves up by our bootstraps that we forget that, no, it's okay to model the Christ concept, right? There was a whole video. It's like, Chief was like, you don't see any of these grades, but these are concepts. This concept now has been manifested into a physical form so that people now can see the blueprint. I can teach you this stuff, but now let me show you how this moves on a day in and day out basis. I can teach you about being a woman and be receptive, but now watch me model it. I can teach you how to be unafraid, but now watch me model it. Watch me put these concepts into physical form so you now can see it. But now either you're going to say, you know what, let me model what's in front of me so I can follow the blueprint. Let me model what's here, or let me go back to doing what I was doing. You're going to model something. Don't sit here and think that, oh yeah, I'm doing my own thing, because this is why now you can listen to a lecture from Chief and then all of a sudden you'll be like, oh, he's talking to me. He's talking about the social conditioning, which ultimately involves you. Your life is not that important for somebody to single you out. But if you can start to see the social conditioning that is looming over your head, then you'll start to see that ultimately you're modeling what somebody has already programmed you to model. Can you move beyond that? Can you become anew? We even have it right here in 1 Corinthians 11 and 1. Be ye followers of me. What you following? You're going to follow something. You're going to follow somebody. In order for you now to get to where you want to be, there's always somebody that you're going to model after. Usually I modeled my game after this person. When I was younger and I was playing basketball, there was Allen Iverson was the guy to me. I wanted to get the same number. I wanted to get the crossover. I wanted to do all of that because he was where I wanted to be. Well, now, where do you want to be in life? As a better father, as a better mother, as a better sister, as a better brother or uncle or teacher. What are you modeling? What are you now afraid of to drop or to let go of that is hindering you from moving to a different space? You're going to follow something. You're going to follow someone. Some of us here to teach, which you see there's a plethora of things that one can pick from enlightenment and transformation to the podcast, to the books, to the music, to all of these things that are saying, you know what, let's renew your mind. Renew your mind. So now you can actually see, oh, you know what, I see this game that's coming. I see that somebody is now doing a great job of trying to trip me up on thinking that I don't have any confidence. Because if you live in a capitalistic society, you got to get somebody to buy something to put them in motion, but there's no true motivation behind doing what they're doing. But their motion feels like they're motivated. But the only person who's motivated is the one getting the money. So now I got to make you feel like you're not enough if you don't have this shirt. You're not enough if you don't drive a certain car, if you don't have a certain bank account, if you don't have these things and now you feel inadequate, you feel less than. So now I'm going to put you on the track to get you to running. And if you don't make it or if you don't reach it, now you're afraid that other people are going to judge you because now, or other people are going to see you that you're not worthy or you're not valuable. But what have you bought into? What have you now been a follower of? And it's not something of instant gratification, or it's not something of one getting stuck on, where some people get stuck on, well, you know what, I got to be the one now to save my family, or I have to be the one, and that ego still kicks in of I have to be the one to do these things. And again, I want to just take that back to the new way, where it says, even in the salvation model, we are not concerned with the ascension of the entire human populace. Because that sometimes gets people stuck on, you know what, I got to give back to my mom. My mom is the one that birthed me and brought me into this world. Even though your mom made some bad decisions, my father has done X, Y, and Z, and I got to bring him along, not knowing that your father made some bad decisions. What are you modeling? What are you showing on your day in and day out basis that have now moved you beyond some of the fears and the trappings that you have? Not being so concerned with, I have to do this for them. I have to do this for them. That's going to happen. You see it in the end. That's going to happen, regardless of whether you try your darndest to do it or not. But ultimately, are you a lighthouse? Have you ultimately fed your faith and killed yourself out of one reality only to rebirth yourself into our new? Have you done that? Or is it more, it's just, you know what, it's easier for one to say, I'm going to just hold on to this identity because this identity, I'm doing a noble thing here. And my noble thing is I'm supposed to be grabbing everybody. But meanwhile, you haven't really pulled yourself up out of it, which now is modeling what's now been put in front of you.
So you know what? While you're talking about the modelship and recognizing the play, what I'm hearing, like as the gongs in my ear right now, is if we're to look at our lives and say, this is where I want it to be, but this is where I actually got to. There's usually a pretty big gap that needs to be bridged there. And so it's like, well, what path, how did I get here? Right? So many of us wake up and say, well, what happened? And it's like, we have to then go back and look at, or maybe not go back and look at, but actually listen to someone who is way ahead and recognize, okay, that was the misstep. Like the misstep was, speaking from the vantage point that I can speak from, as a woman, prioritizing career and monetary gains and prioritizing the things that are much more material and fleeting over family over femininity, right? And then wondering, well, who was I modeling? Are they even of my culture, of my bloodline? And the answer is no. So in recognizing that play, I'm even thinking of your example about Aki Hamza, and you saying, okay, he likes to fight. And because of that fight, and because of the examples of a Safo of the Most High that he strives to align himself with, he's able to protect the gates and keep things safe. So someone who, in your example, someone who says, well, yeah, I teach boxing. I wouldn't know. That the answer would have been just fine to me. There were 3 different versions given. I said, oh, okay. Oh, is that how you do it? Oh, okay. But the men, unafraid, who guard the gates, said, nope, that ain't it. Oh, okay, we can do it like this. Nope, that ain't it. But this was being presented in a space by someone who said, I teach this. I do this. And so it's like there's an appreciation for those the men that are here to keep us safe, as there is, I would imagine, an equal appreciation for the women that choose to that commit themselves to serving fully and what that role is. And it makes me think of in the On Your Way, Rites of Passage, where it says, we are to show that we are men and we are to show that we are women. How do we know what we can be responsible for with the works of this kingdom if you are not tested? Right? So it's like, first, we have to show and prove. And then we have to constantly be tested, which means there is a way, there is a standard that we have to align ourselves with and then be tested by. And that's a part of modeling what doesn't get you where you need to go, and modeling in such a way where you're constantly given the opportunities to show and prove that we're functioning from the same playbook. That's about all I have on sports analogies that y'all use.
That's all right. That's all right. I'm walking with you. And it made me think of like there's a saying even in sports where it says look like Tarzan but play like Jane, right? Somebody may come with all these inflatable muscles and big dude, and your eyes will be like, oh man, this is gonna be but then all of a sudden puts his hand in the dirt and can't move anything around, right? And this is that test now. Let me see what you got. Let me see what you work. Have you been able to get by fooling so many people because you have the attire on, because you have the breastplate on, because you have the shirt on? Like you said many times, like I've said since I was 5 years old. It gotta be in you and not on you. Come on, Chief. It gotta be in you, not on you. And if it's just on you, then what happens is when you come around with your little costume on of like, yeah, I'm a wolf, and then all of a sudden you get around other wolves and they start poking at your costume, and they all of a sudden see that it's being held together by a button, or there's a zipper. If you move a little bit of this hair, like a little of this alpaca fur that you got on here, that's a safety pin. Hold up, man. Hold up. Now all of a sudden you're afraid of being caught. Or now all of a sudden, let me tell you something. I was with that, but you know what? It was I. It was I. But they just be moving different. And it just wasn't in alignment with what I was supposed to be doing. It wasn't what my spirit is leading me right now in this season of my life. That's the way you get out of anything, man. It wasn't in alignment with my spirit. No. Somebody caught you imitating. There's a point where Chief has said this many times. When you don't know what to do, copy your teacher. But at the same time, you're going to start to be put into it to see what you can do. It's not just you sitting back and then having your pom-poms of, oh, yeah, look how he can break this down. Look how she can do all of this. That's not it. It's more so of, what are you going to get in there and do? See, you're going to make some mistakes. You're going to get hit. You're going to fall. The thing is, get up. Certain people might say something where you be like, you don't have the answer for it. Hold on, let me go look. Not opposed to just making something up and then all of a sudden, yeah, that's deep. That's deep for somebody who's uneducated. Hold on, let me go look. Because now I know the only thing that's doing is making me grow stronger, making me move beyond my comfort zone of me even having conversations with certain, but hold on now, because they may ask me questions about what I'm into. And if I don't have answers for it, then now I might become afraid to even say what I'm into. Yeah, it's the same thing. Yeah, I'm pulling from the Bible. Does that mean I'm a Christian? No. But can one now see that and say, no, that's not what I'm not saying the same thing? Because if I was, oh no, I'm talking about the same thing. Yeah, no. See, you got one God, I got one God. You got Jesus, I got Orisha. You got this, I got that. Nah, it's an apologist or being afraid as opposed to, no, this is what I'm doing. This is where I'm after, what I'm after. And even when I'm looking at it, where is this? I had it right here and then I lost it. Out of the New Way, it says right here, if you choose to follow anything or anyone other than the direction from Olodumare, the creator will reveal to you the exact truth of what that entity is. Now, you can even go take a look at Ish Just Hit the Fan, where it starts to say, you know what, if you choose anything other than the path of the creator, it's going to tell you these, what is this? You don't see this? Okay, let me show you. Just be patient. I'm going to show you. And some people get so invested, which it can turn some people completely away from spirituality, completely away. And now they really become into a fight with themselves because now I've been burned or I've been this. But again, you judge the spirit by the spirit. So now that's an opportunity for you to fight and say, you know what? I'm not going to turn away from the Most High. I'm not going to turn away from the Creator. I got to understand that there were some deficiencies that was in me that was exploited. But God dang it, if I put myself in the situation, I can get myself out of the situation. Here's the blueprint. Be ye followers of me. Follow the path of the Creator. And keep your eyes up. Not in the sense of when Shrek and Donkey walking across the bridge and Donkey's like, I don't walk across bridges, man. Like, you don't understand. Keep your eyes straight ahead and don't look down. What did he do? Shrek, I'm looking down. If you keep your eyes on the Creator, you keep your eyes on the One, and understanding that you live in two worlds and have one Creator as opposed to living in one world and having multiple gods. Now, these multiple gods are pulling you, you looking down and saying, oh, I don't have this. Oh, I don't have this relationship. Oh, I don't have this job. Oh, I don't have this kind of car. Oh, I don't have where I'm supposed to be and I'm not valued. And now I'm starting to look down the entire time. And now it's like, I become debilitated and I can't move forward on my path. As opposed to me keeping my eyes on the Creator. As opposed to me keeping my eyes on where I'm supposed to be. Now I can start to move and groove. And even when it says right here that we're going to go from Hebrews 6 and 12 from the King James Version, that ye be not slothful, but followers of them who through faith and patience inherit the promises. Through faith and patience. Now, what is faith is different from a hope, and it's different from a belief. Both of those are products of anxiety. When you hope something is something you really don't know. Oh my goodness, I hope things work out. I hope I can pay my rent. I hope, right? Those are those fears and anxieties that now start to become illusions to become real in your own eye. I just hope that they show up. Oh my goodness. No, we're moving beyond that. I don't believe. You can't believe in the knowing. Either it's real or it's not. Faith is a knowing. I know this. Like it says it in the Matrix. You're like, so are you the one? I don't know. Well, guess what? Being the one is like being in love. Can't nobody tell you that you in it. You know it from balls to bones. You know it. This is what it is. This is what it's going to be. You can't tell me no different because my eyes are on the creator and I'm moving. I can't tell you nothing, anything different from that. That's from faith. And now what is patience? Patience is suffering. To be patient is even in the sense of when you go home and you know when your mom had that fire meal and you just starving. You like, I'm hungry. And she said, you got to wait for 5 more minutes. You be like, I'm so hungry right now, I can eat a gazelle, whatever. I don't know. You got to suffer. You got to suffer. And patience is going to bring suffering. You might even start to, when you start to look at everybody has all of these quote unquote accolades and all of these things and all of that. No, I'm going to be patient with where I'm supposed to be and what I'm supposed to be doing. And keeping my eyes on the creator. That's what I'm not taking my eyes off of you. Where are you going? I'm going to shadow you. Where are you going? You going this way? I'm going this way. You moving here? I'm moving here. But you know, it's not a sense of, nah, okay, I don't need you to be planted over here in this part of the town anymore. I need you to move over. Oh, okay. It ain't no, well, you know, I don't know anybody over there. Well, how am I supposed to live? How am I supposed to make, you know, that was something that was told to me when this, it was a pastor who actually told me this long time ago. It's like, Zach, we enjoy you here, but you cannot be here anymore. You have to go. The worldly view in me came in instantly. Where am I going to go? What am I supposed to do? Where am I going to work? How am I going to make income? All of these things, all of these worldly things that start to add it up into me that became debilitating where it's like, nah, I ain't doing that. And then the conversation I had with him a month, he's like, why are you still here? As opposed to me keeping you say you a follower, you say you in here, well then what's the problem? Until it gets real and say, oh, that's just the costume you had on this entire time, huh? That's just the show you was putting on, huh? Talking about trust, but now you extending bridges that you haven't walked across yourself. Don't do that. Don't do that. Through faith and patience. And now faith is annoying. I know that if I keep my eyes on the creator and if this is where you're telling me to move, I already know it's gonna be taken care of because the faith, the promise. If something is promised, I know I'm not the one that has to make it happen. I just have to be in alignment with it. It ain't no, I gotta do. You know what? I know the creator gonna work it all out. So let's just go. Let's go for the ride. Let's go for the ride. And when you go for the ride, then I'm gonna close with this one. I got a few more in here, but I'm just gonna close with this one because time is a little getting away from me. And this is the one that everybody knows. You should know. Maybe you don't know. Let me not put that on. All right, if you don't know, here it is for the first time. All right, this is Psalms 23:4. Is this, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. I'm alone, but I'm never lonely. I always know that if I can keep my eyes on the creator, if I can keep my eyes on him, I'm going to be all right. Because thy rod and thy staff comfort me. It's going to, nah, Zach, you don't need to be over there. Nah, Zach, get back over here. Nah, you know what? Now don't start serving these other gods of looking at how much money you have in the bank. Get your butt back over here. You know what? You now have these accolades. You should get this job and you should get a lot of reverence. You can get a lot of pay. You're going to get that dough. Get back over here. There's a calling on your life. There's a purpose for your life. Get back over it. Do you want to come back down here and do this again? Do you want to come back down here and go through middle school and high school and all this trying to fit in and all of this? Or do you want to go beyond all of this anxiety that one may have? Do you want to go beyond all of this fear that one may have? Do you want to go beyond all of the social trappings that have laid in front of you, that are laid in front of you? And can you sidestep it and keep your eye on him? Moving beyond your fears, moving beyond your doubts, moving beyond your limitations mean that one needs to gain clarity. And when one has clarity of who and what they are, and clarity and see a clear vision of what has been laid out in front of you, and keeping your eyes on the Most High, of now being able to just consistently, that's why he even says in a new way, this shouldn't be read just once, consistently keeping your eyes, feeding your faith. So your doubts will starve. Can you keep feeding that? Can you start to even recognize the systems and the social programming that goes on, where you start to study on a daily basis of, oh, I see this. Or even when somebody starts to open their mouth, I know where this came from. I know where this is leading to, and understanding different perceptions and understanding the different viewpoints from other people and other cultures, and starting to see it, but still keeping your eyes on him. And not trying to, this is where you need to be. I don't know where you need to be. I know where I need to be, though. Not me trying to save somebody, trying to give the best of what they know. If you know what, are you ready for Jehovah's return? And they coming over here and saying all of this and all of that. And you need to see that this ain't, I'm understand water seeks its own level. I don't need to be the one now all of a sudden because I came into something. Now all of a sudden I feel like I got to push that on to everybody else. Ultimately, though, I'm going to model it. You can always tell what somebody's religion or what somebody's spirituality is doing for them by the way that they treat other people. Are you being so combative? And if you feel like now you got some information that all of a sudden you need to project it on the other people? Or can you walk through the valley of the shadow of death? That guess what? As I'm walking through different communities, I know I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. I'm good. I can walk and move and groove in any community because I know that the teachings are always going to be with me. I can see other perspectives because the teachers are always going to be with me. I don't have to worry about renewing this lease or getting this house or all of that because I know that I have to be ready to go at a moment's notice if I'm called to do something. Let's go. And you got to be unafraid to move past the human trappings or the multiple gods that are served on this realm and live in the two worlds. So with that being said, I'll look, see if anybody has any comments or if anybody wants to share. If not.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Ain't no way.
Let's go.
We're closing out this year. Well, I wanted to say thank you for that Psalms reference. It's one of my it was like one of the first scriptures my grandmother had me memorize. And at that time, of course, I never dug into, well, what is this valley of the shadow of death? And just right now, listening to you recite that scripture, I went back and I looked at it and I'm like, you know what? But the valley is a low place, right? It's the sunken. It could be, right? It's like the lowest place. So it's like you're in the valley and then there's shadows. So you're already low and then it's dark. And it took me right back to your opening story about being in the dark, yet understanding, now the value of being unafraid. So it's like, so I just did a little bit of digging, and the word, the term that's used for that darkness is could also mean like an ignorance or destruction or misery, and even wickedness. And so it's like sometimes when we think of that valley or that shadow, it's like we want to blame it on something else, right? It's like, get thee, Satan, or there's constantly some other entity outside of me that's doing these things to me. And because there's never an ownership, I wonder what you think about this. Even in using that same scripture, it's almost pointing a finger at everyone else. But at what point does the ownership, go back to, does the onus, I should say, go back to the individual? So yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil. First, the choice is mine to fear no evil, to be unafraid. So there's something that had to have already been in there. I have to know that I've actually aligned myself with those promises. Because it doesn't just say, you ain't got to do nothing and I promise you these things. There are laws that dictate, if you follow this way, as you touched on earlier, if you follow the way, then you will have these things, these promises I make to my people. So there's a level of accountability before you even get to knowing that thou art with me. So it goes back to that idea of you can't look down. You know, you have to keep your eye on that light, on that source. So I don't know if I thought there was a question in there, but I don't know where it went.
No, and I think I'm about to say I'm walking with you because I'm looking at this. Yea, though I walk, which is being active, which is a movement, which is not just sitting still, which is not just or what some people get caught up in is durationalism. Of I'm just waiting and you still
waiting
gonna
on
just
the Lord.
Right, and you gonna keep waiting until you get your butt up and you start moving. It's like move beyond this what you think it is, and yeah, you in the dark. Being in the dark now is like for me now. It's like that social program. Some people dance in the dreams of their darkness. They enjoy it. What when in Roots when he went back to get his lady and she just started yelling, "Hey, ain't no cotton to pick up there. What we gonna do?
Yeah, we good here. We got it good here."
Right. They dancing in the dreams of their darkness. Right. But now here we go. What it say in the new way? Our role is not to save the masses of humankind. Our role is to live above the deluge of wayward emotions and aggressive ignorance that rule humanity. If your role is to that, it now is active to climb. It's active to move beyond your human trappings. It's a walk, active. Even in the breakdown when Chief had of row your boat gently down the stream. Rowing is an active thing. Consistently rowing and feeding your brain of now this is what you are looking at. Again, you don't see with your eyes, you see with your brain. Your eyes will get you beat if you don't train your brain or educate your brain. What are you ultimately putting in there on a day in and day out basis that's going to now find yourself getting say, oh, I'm in a valley and this is it. This is the big one. I don't know how we're going to get out of it. And I'm stuck. Or are you going to keep feeding yourself that light so now therefore you can take your light into the darkness? That's even enlightenment and transformation. Man, go boldly into the darkness. This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. Woo. Watch the light come on. Watch how I model this. And it's not me trying to preach and this is what you should be doing. I'm going to model it. I'm going to show you what this looks like. I'm going to show you what Anu looks like on a day in and day out basis. And I'm going to do it unafraid. So that just made me think of that. Sister Akoti Yafe, I see you in here. Did you want to add something? Or did you want to just chill? Did you want to just chill? All right, cool.
She may be having tech issues. Yeah. Even I'm just thinking like those valleys and that the shadow of death. It's like that deep dark place. And when you touched on the walking, right? I think she just unmuted. Can you hear me now? Okay. Yes, I had to leave and come back. Okay, peace, shalom. Give thanks for the build. I was gonna add on to the shadow of death piece, like when you talked about it being a low place, and I'm like, yeah, when we come down from that crown, when we're coming to have that human experience, we are coming down to that low place. It's a valley of a shadow of death because these clay bodies die away, and so it is like an active walk through the valley of shadows. And the other thing is that we know when we choose to live a higher experience and go with our higher minds, we know that Yah is with us because we know that the shadows are there because there's light behind it. The shadows are only there because they're blocking that main source of light, or trying to block that main source of light. You know, when we walk on the street and we look at our shadow, it moves based on where the sun is, but the sun is always on us. So we're walking through that valley of shadow of death, but fear no evil, because we know Yah is with us, because we choose to know that he's with us. If we do continue to walk through actively and just, woe is me on the shadows, then you're just going to be in the shadows all the time. So I just wanted to add to that.
Yo, and even when you just said, it made me think of that shadow. Like, so many is stuck on a shadow. That's not real. It's not real. False, but you have a woman can have a fear. What is your shadow? Right? What now would prevent one from walking through the valley? We in this world, but this is not just I don't live in one world. I live in two worlds. But I look at one creator. All of these demigods will bow to the one. But now if I get caught up on these multiple gods that many serve down here, those shadows start to become real, at least in my eye. But can I move beyond and say, you know what? Just like in that, you're not real. You're not. Look at me. And now they start demanding you to look at them. Where energy goes, where attention goes, energy flows. Where attention goes, energy flows. So if you start giving these shadows your attention, if you start giving all of these things that are keep vying for your attention, whether it be social media, whether it be looking at the news, whether it be whatever the case may be, and you start giving it your attention, you start giving it energy. You start giving it energy, you start giving it life. Yea, though I walk, I'm walking. I'm not stuck giving my attention to a shadow that's not real. I'm not stuck giving my attention to something that is trying to keep me or prevent me from getting to where I need to be, preventing me from becoming Anu. I'm not going to stay stuck on looking at that. I'm going to walk. Yeah, I will fear the shadow of death. You're supposed to kill the old you only to rebirth yourself into a new reality. I'm not going to fear death. I'm not going to fear renewing myself or rising from the ashes. I'm not going to fear that because I know what I'm going to be when I come out of it. I'm going to be something greater than I already was. Not me or the illusion of power that I feel that I'm holding on in this instant. The illusion of what I feel like I have amassed in this instant. The illusion of it all, can I now do away with that in order to rebirth myself to become anew? See, the things that start to take away from one's path and move one and keep one trapped in that valley, I'm not going to fear any of this evil. That's like that, some of that devilish behavior that was in the segments you started talking about, of people now trying to extract your energy. And he was like, you know what? Or the princess mentality of moving beyond it. I'm going to give you the plays now. That's what I'm going to give you the play. Can you run the play? So you can see what's going on in front of you, so your eyes don't get you beat and getting stuck on the shadow. I'm going to show you what that shadow is so you can walk right past that shadow. This shadow is not going to get me caught up on my life. This shadow is not going to keep me hindered from moving beyond where I want to be. This shadow is not going to keep me stuck in this valley, because ultimately, just like Koti Yafe said, there's light behind those shadows. My eyes are on the light, and I'm going to get to the light. I'm walking there. But now as I'm walking, I'm modeling, I'm showing, I'm proving, and I'm becoming more anew. Hiya. Yeah.
You know what you make me think of, and I hope this is a good analogy. I'm gonna say it anyway, and if I'm wrong, I'll be corrected. It made me think of Peter Pan and the idea that the shadow kind of moves on its own. And what happened with Peter Pan, because he was chasing his shadow, right, and into the window. And that's how he got in the window and met all the three kids, and they had the whole adventure, whatever. But he got stuck chasing shadows instead of going to where he needed to be. And then in all of that, he couldn't figure out how to fly. He had to, have, help or whatever from the pixie dust. He couldn't just will it on his own. Like, there were all these little things that were put in his way and kind of keeping him and delaying him from getting where he was supposed to be, which is second star to the right, straight on till morning, whatever. And I'm sure that has its own implications. But my point is just talking about following those shadows and how they get you caught up in a place that maybe you don't need to be.
And I'm looking at, come through, Chief. One time for the one time. Let me put this up here, man. What is walking? Is the spirit through the subconscious, but the shepherd cleared the way and walks before us. We fear no evil as long as we stay close to the shepherd. Truth, thoughts that came first. And how many times have you heard Chief say, I'm here to demolish you. I want to totally, because if I can break it down and clear the path, that way something can give birth to our new. And that's what's even said in that Ruach Kodesh, of just staying close to that light. But now what happens is when one stays close to that light, some people can't stay close to it because it starts to now convict them. So now when you start to become anew, your presence alone starts to convict other people. So I was around, so I'll give you an example. I was around somebody one time and it's like, I don't trust people who don't drink. Why? I don't drink, man. So but I don't trust them. But again, you don't trust them because in your mind, what am I doing wrong? Now, if I can't ultimately have that eat away at me, I now have to put that back on you. So now something must be wrong with you. What's wrong with you? Why ain't you walking? But now if you stay close to that light, now you start to illuminate all of those shrooms and all of those things that grow in the darkness that ultimately people don't want to, but and it's almost like when you sleep and you awake from that dream and somebody cuts the lights on, what's the first thing you do? You squint. Like, ooh, turn the light off. Turn the light off. Man, just give me 15 more minutes of sleep. Give me 15. People have eyes, but they can't see because they're living in the darkness and not staying close to that shepherd or not staying close to that word. So now all of a sudden now I enjoy the darkness, not as opposed to there's a lot of light that's being brought forth through our new. Red light, green light, yellow light, red light, stop. No, I'm joking. There's a lot of light.
Come on, bring it home. That red, that
symbolizes. You gotta stay, but ultimately though, it's staying close to the shepherd or staying close to truth. Truth will start to. The only way that you can create mindless, senseless beings is feed it garbage and keep it in the dark. But as long as one stays close to the light, now you start to burn that stuff away, so that one can grow and go beyond what has been presented to them. And even I see it in him go to this other one. Did y'all want to add anything before I read the next one? Okay. Chief?
I was just going to say, or they scatter like roaches. Roaches like to eat and drink anything.
Hey, you ain't lying. They don't die. They multiply. And you see that there's a lot of multiplication of ignorance. There's a lot of it. But again, can you go beyond it? Says the shadow is the invisible dimension, even in the unseen. Truth is there to guide as long as the spirit is assimilating directives of truth. It shows that the Most High is in dwelling principle. And you already seen, we spoke about some of the required qualities of the principles that one starts to build and stand on.
This makes me, give thanks, Chief, of course. Because as I look at the scripture, right, it's like, yea, though I walk. So it's like, this individual, if this is an individual, right, they've chosen to take this journey. So it's like, I'm not going to stay here in the fetal position, just rocking and waiting for my Savior to come. Because the path's already been laid, and I know this is the way. I know that all I have to do is put one foot in front of another and go through this to actually be more solidly affirmed to the wisdom that's already within me, which is that thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. So provisions have already been made. So it's like, if I'm charged to let the versions of me die that actually didn't really serve me well anyway, in order to be anew, in order to fully function in all that I now understand and recognize and can strive to be as a woman, as an Anu woman, then what more is there for me to do than be obedient? So in this scripture, based on what Chief is saying, it's like this is obedience. So it doesn't matter if it's dark and shadowy. It doesn't matter that I'm going to choose. I mean, what matters is that I'm going to choose to fear no evil. That evil is often the voice inside saying, you ain't got to do this. Look, we had it good. Like, that check was coming. You know you didn't really work that hard. Like, you was at your desk studying our new content at work. You wasn't really working that hard. You don't have to actually take that next step. So it's like, do I listen to that? Or do I walk through that valley of the shadow of death? Do I say, all right, I got these tools in my backpack, which is the thing, my knowing, my connection to the Most High, the light, instruction. Do I walk with that? Or do I take my feeble mind, my brain, my flesh brain, and say, well, they pay me okay. I have this title. Like you said, I have these letters. Do I stay there? And the thing is, if we choose to stay there, we never actually get to recognize in the comfort of that rod and that staff. Because the comfort comes after you walked through the valley of the shadow of death. Being fearless. So it's like we've got to be destroyed in order to get to a place where it's like, oh, all right, this is comfort. Because you're comforted by that most masterful creator, not the fleeting temporal reality or false reality that tells you every day you need to buy something to feel something. And if you're not consuming, then you're worthless. Because really the worth is in the production. We were told to be fruitful and multiply. not be fruitful and buy. Yeah, you like that one, right? That's mine.
Okay, all right.
Carry, eat it. Okay. Back on it.
Okay, yeah, I can dig it. Isaiah, did you want to jump in?
Yeah, can y'all hear me?
No, I can't hear you.
All right. Yeah, well, peace to everybody. Big bro Zach up here spinning that hot fire. So as I was listening, when I think about it, when you were speaking on fear, false evidence appearing real, it made me think about this book I read called The Power of Now. And we all know fear is a projection of the past, present, and it could be the future as well. But if it's a projection of things that haven't happened yet, then it means our real authority and power come in the present moment that we're in. And once you learn how to will that, you could get rid of those unnecessary projections that add stress and anxiety and those type of things into your life. But when I was looking at the title, shadow boxing, this whole time I'm looking at ways to tie it into the message that's being spoken about. And I know for myself, I could say I shadow box myself. I shadow box with fear, with depression, anxiety, all those kind of emotions that take you away from your path to elevation. So that's what I would say. Just once you know how to harness your power and where to get your power from, which will be in the present moment, then it lets you get past all that. So, you could get to the next level of your life. And that saying, I'm the only person that could stand in my way. Well, that also translates to shadow boxing. If you're the only one who could beat yourself, you shadow boxing yourself and you working backwards. So at the end of the day, when you're tired and stressed out, but you ain't did nothing all day, it's because you fought yourself. And yeah, that's just the conclusion I came to with everything that's being said. So I know for me personally, I'm on that journey of, stopping that unnecessary fight with myself, because fear, anxiety, all those kind of emotions, and getting back on the original path to elevate my mind, to destroy my old self to become a new person. And, conquering that fear and anxiety of what I thought things would be, what I thought things would look like. But it's funny because when you create all these projections in your head of what you think things will be, you find out when you actually do it, it doesn't look that way. So that's all I wanted to share. But I give thanks for the conversation. Yeah, spin that how fire like dialogue.
Yeah, thanks for that, Isaiah. And when you were talking though, and you're just saying about fighting yourself, it took me again back to following that yellow brick road and one fighting the lion, looking for that courage, and the Tin Man, and ultimately though getting to a place where you feel like this is what you felt you needed in order to now achieve some sort of place that you wanted to be. And then pulling back that curtain is like, it was this little dude back here the entire time. Like this is it. This whole time, I thought it was something. I created this shadow in my head of thinking that it was so large and so big that it kept me from moving into where I should have been. It started to even make me question myself of maybe that I didn't have the right equipment to do what I was supposed to do. Maybe I don't have the gift of gab. That's one of the things even before when, and I'm just using myself as an example because I'm telling you, and it doesn't mean that I by any stretch of the imagination of where I should be, where I want to be. But when I first started and Chief was like, "You gonna do videos?" The first thing I said, "I don't do videos." That's something I don't do. All right. Like, no, I'll make jokes about other people and I'll do all of this other stuff. But you know what? I don't have the, and then I started making all of these excuses. I don't have the right camera. I don't have the right setup. I don't have the right background. Nah, I live in reality, and reality tells me that it has to look like what I think is behind that curtain. It has to look like that. And if it doesn't look like that, then I can't produce it. So now I'm not even going to say anything. Or here's another one. I don't have anything to share. As if I don't have any life experience. As if I didn't, right? And or what I started to do was I'm not going to be able to build like Chief builds, which is now another shadow I've created in my head because now I just disrespected his whole walk and everything that he's been through. Because now I feel like I should be where he is and disrespecting his journey and disrespecting my journey. And saying that, you know what, it's not going to sound like Chief. It's not going to be, I don't have that, all of the insight that he has from building from, a plethora of different topics and not repeating himself. I can't do that. I'm going to talk about the Matrix today. I'm going to talk about the Matrix tomorrow. I'm going to talk about the Matrix 2 years from now. All right. I can't do what she does, but I can do what I do. But again, that gets one stuck and afraid of even starting moving and disrespecting their own journey. Fighting yourself then of saying, I should be. Or, why ain't you on your journey? Or why ain't you on your path? Well, I hope that I can get here or I should be getting here. But every day keeps passing and I keep like, this is what I should do. This is what I should do. This is what I should do. Instead of me, you know what? If I at least start today, by the time the end of the year comes or by the time I'm going to be at least further along than where I was today. But the worst thing that can happen is I'm still in the same position today that I'm going to be next month, that I'm going to be at the end of the year. That's the worst thing that can happen. As opposed to me saying, you know what, I'm going to put it, let's go. I might not, my voice might crack. Don't care, let's go. I may not say the right thing. I may be a little off key. But that's why it's even better to be in a community, because in the community, then you had the shepherd say, hold on, man, that was a little off. You went this way, but not beating you down in a way where you're not even going to speak. But ultimately, hold on, man, you got to put a little more work in. I can tell you winging it now. And all that can be solved with if you just open this book. Okay, cool. Thank you. Let's do it. Boom. I got to get back in there and get on it. But not just getting so stuck in it has to look like this, where I can't now go to the next level. And even if you see in the chat where I think this is where Chief says Peter Pan's shadow would leave him every night without his knowing. This was the attachments leaving him, making it possible for him to learn and grow. But he wanted shadow and attachment back. And there's a lot of I like Hook, right? And that's the one because I just like Robin Williams. He just be channeling for me. he be going in. And with Hook, let me leave that up there actually. And then Hook, though, that was one of the things was he couldn't fly. He got old because he now left and wanted to be the lawyer and the family. And I wanted, it has to look like this. And so he went back over there and it was like, he couldn't even see the food because his imagination was gone. His creativity was gone. He didn't know how to fight. He was up there trying to live in one world now, but was serving multiple gods. So now when one starts to make their attachments in this worldly environment, now they become heavy. Can't become light, right? Or he said, like Chief says, this shadow would leave him every night without his knowing. But now when you invite that shadow in and say, nah, you know what, this is what I want. Now you just start to get heavy, and you get heavier, and that's when people be like, I'm so tired. I'm heavy, dog. I'm heavy. But that Peter, or even, what was that? Didn't you do the show on that she was the Ptah or the Pineal or shining that lamp? And now when you're not shining that lamp or that first eye of being able to now use that imagination, that creativity, and ultimately build, now all of a sudden you start to look like cookie cutters. I was watching something the other day with these people, and all of them look, they dress the same, they dance the same, they rap the same. All of it looks like a cookie cutter. So now all of a sudden you're in line with everybody else, or can you shine that lamp to use your creativity and your imagination and focus now and start to now innovate the things that are going on around you? Or does that shadow now just start to weigh you down where I have to be in this world and I'm going to serve these multiple gods as opposed to me serving the Most High and living in two different worlds and being able to see and use my imagination to see that, to go beyond me saying that, oh yeah, I'm a gunner just means you ain't gonna do it. Can you start to move beyond that? Did anybody else want to add anything? Everybody good? Oh,
yeah, I will add. So in Chief's, I see he also commented, shadows block light. Shadows are ignorance and fear, right? And we don't realize the light awakens the shadow, just like happiness gives life to sadness. And when you were talking about the light, like it made me think of the woman being water, being, that chaos. And when light hits the water, and this was actually in one of Chief's podcasts. It was I was listening to. It was one of the first ones, and he says, a lot of times females say, "Well, you just act like I can't do nothing right," and there's never an appreciation for gratitude for pointing out what isn't, what's still dark and shadowy, what's still maybe ignorant or rooted in fear or just not aligned with what the light recognizes you as having the potential to be. And so instead of me saying, okay, I painted this. It's so funny. I was looking at this chair. I was going for my jog this morning, and I was stretching, and I put my foot up on the chair that I spray painted. And I remember I was so proud of having painted these chairs. And I had a visitor, and they looked at the chairs and was like, "Oh yeah, okay, you painted these chairs, but I see you missed the spot over here. You missed the spot right there." And I just threw up my hands like, I did the best I could do. And I look at these chairs a year later, and I said, you know what? You should have had a lot more gratitude, because in that moment, all of the dark spots, all of the missed opportunities for this being more long-lasting now, because I noticed in those same spots, it was faded. And I was like, dang, this is where gratitude comes in. Thank you for pointing out my dark and shadowy spots so that I can clean up even more and reflect light more radiantly. Thank you for even the opportunity to see what is at my back. Because maybe what I need to do is turn around. Not that I can see my back, but maybe I was just walking completely in the wrong direction. And even with the idea, thank you, Chief Yuya, pointing out that I very sloppily, it wasn't even sloppy, I just missed a few spots on my chairs. Yes. Thank you for pointing that out. Yes. But even in that, it's like it took me a whole year to appreciate, oh man, you know what? I should have just gone back and sprayed these things another time and not say, well, ignorance is bliss. I just did the best I could. Well, this took me long enough, so this should be good enough. No, it's when it's good enough. Right, yes, your work is never done, indeed. When it's good enough, know that you'll know that as well. And also just the idea of duality, right? So the shadow, and I thought about that even in Aki Isaiah's point. It's like when I was thinking about shadow boxing, I'm like, well, shadow boxing has benefits, right? Like boxing is the only sport that I've ever really been into. And it's like shadow boxing is a component of fitness for that individual. But then so that would be, I guess what I would say is like the light, right? But then the dark side is, but even in that version of shadow boxing, I imagine you're envisioning your opponent. So you're really not fighting yourself. Whereas on that shadow side or the dark side, when we're shadow boxing, we're doing exactly what Aki Isaiah described. We're fighting ourselves. And therefore, instead of moving forward, we're usually stuck. Let me not read the chat because then I'm going to get distracted. It's like we're fighting ourselves and therefore not moving forward. So if we're picturing our opponent and we're shadow boxing, we're actually moving towards our target as opposed to fighting ourselves and just remaining stagnant. With that, I'm going to read the chat because it looks like it was funny.
Yeah, but even when you were just saying, there is a sense of that even goes back to building an affirmation. And building an affirmation, it starts with the thought. The thought goes to the vision. You put a bow tie on that with faith. But the affirmation ultimately is the last spot. So now, if you're building that, you have to build it in your mind. Again, you don't see with your eyes, you see with your brain. Your brain is telling your mind, it's telling you what you're seeing. So you're going to build that first. Now, either those things are going to be anchored by all of the shadows that you ultimately think you don't have, or you can use that to say, okay, these are some of the things that I need to be aware of as I move on this path. That's again staying close to that shepherd, staying close to that light. So now, as I painted this chair, there might be some things that even, hold on now, you missed a couple spots here. Oh, yeah, you know what? I didn't see that. Thank you for that, because ultimately, if I would have saw it at the wrong time or the right time, it could have crippled me. It could have been debilitating for me to move forward on my journey and on my path and in life. So now if I stay close to the light, if I stay close to the source, now it's going to point out some of the things that, you know what, these are the things that I need to watch out for. These are some of the pitfalls that I need to duck or dodge. Or these are some of the things I need to clean up in my life in order to get to where I need to be. And when one starts to have that, it's like one thing that I will more than anything is for people to be in wise counsel, man. Like if there's one thing that I will for everybody to be in, is wise counsel of somebody to be able to point out those things or those smalls on your back, so you're not just making the same old mistakes, but making new ones and actually growing and learning from those things. Emma Akuya and Akoti Maria. Go ahead, Emma Akuya, I see.
Yes, peace, Akizak. That you always bring an inspiring word. But this topic just caused me to think about a lot of things, especially pertaining to Psalms. But also, I was thinking about what Hoti Yafe was talking about, Peter Pan and chasing the shadow, and it caused me to think about that scripture about that Paul speaks on about he doesn't run aimlessly. There's not I'm not going to run after something and there's no target. And then also just thinking about another part of that scripture where he where he says, he's not fighting the air, beating the air, and fear can, cause you to fight yourself or, fight something that may not be there. And you're not even landing any punches, with your shadow boxing, So I do see the benefit of it, of shadow boxing, is Yakira Eden mentioned, but on the other side of it, you're boxing nothing, you're not landing any punches as well. But also went forward, I was thinking about, in Psalms when, he opens up with "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." And so, going in, I would imagine that he knew the things, that would be coming up against him. But his mindset was like, I'm still going to eat, because the Most High has set a table before me in the presence of my enemies. And I just want to say it was so inspiring because there are so many, things that, I deal with as it relates to fear, but knowing that you have that direction, knowing that you're still going to be eating and have that direction in spite of, what you may be facing or, what you may overcome, is really encouraging. And also, I thought of about David. There was a time when in the scripture where he talks about I don't remember who he was fighting, but he went away fighting and he came back and his camp was raided, and his own men, turned against him. But there was something within David that he knew, where he encouraged himself enough and said, I'm just going to go ahead and seek the Lord, or seek the Most High. And again, all of this is just, inspiring and helps me to see where I've lacked, where I've not run back or get that direction I need when I'm, facing the adversary or and instead of trying to shadow box, where I'm not landing any punches, just use the direction that has always been given to you. So I just wanted to add to that. Give thanks.
Yeah, thanks. Coach Maria, did you want to jump in? Or no? Okay, as you find the unmute button, or maybe you got the same issue that Coach Yafe was having.
Yeah, if you come out and come back in, it'll work.
All right. Yeah, but even when it said, I ain't gonna read that. Oh man, but it's just a matter of, and it's even when you were speaking, it made me think about when people, there's a quote that Les Brown says when it's like people usually don't set the bar too high and miss, they set the bar too low and they hit. And why one is miserable or one doesn't want to get to where they want to be is because now all of a sudden I can't go beyond where it is that I see it's like my social conditions and my social class ultimately give me my vision. So as opposed to me having a better vision or a new vision, I just get stuck in, well, this is the highest that I can go or the best that I can achieve. So now I'm not, and I don't want to have fear of actually failing. I don't want to have fear of actually being ridiculed or looking like, oh, look at him. I thought you said you ain't doing it. Look at you. So instead of me doing that, I might as well just move the target lower so that therefore, I'm just might as well get me a good job with great benefits. As opposed to saying, you know what? Nah, I'm going after this entrepreneurship. I'm going after this innovation. I'm going. Let's go. Let's do it. Right? Because I'm staying in alignment because that's what my purpose and my calling is. But because of now I'm in my social conditioning and my social circle, this now starts to tell me what I can achieve and what I can achieve. And I take that on as real, or this shadow that I think is real. It makes me think of even that movie Trading Places, when even in Trading Places, where my man was out there and I saw he seen was a beggar because he was a part of that social class, and then all of a sudden he got invited into a different place. Now he took on a new mind with being in that social class. Well, when you come into our new, you're gonna take on a new mind, and it's gonna be one of those like, I'm just gonna keep using my Zach. You got to go back to school. No, 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 no. Hey, nah, I do a lot of things now. I ain't gonna do these videos. Here I am. I ain't gonna do that schooling. Here I am. But it's again, you gotta level up. When you come into a group, they're gonna say, nah, you gonna level up, man. You can't just sit here and now set the bar too low and you keep hitting, but then wondering why your life is you're not feeling any fulfillment in anything that you do, because one now has set the bar so low out of fear of failing or out of fear of not being able to make things happen. So now all of a sudden I just stay stagnant and I stay stuck. Akoti Maria, did your mic work now?
It works now.
Boom, let's go.
Boom, all right. Thank you for such an inspirational piece today. Shadow boxing. When I heard of shadow boxing, it just took me to pure visuals, right? And I agree, Yakira, even it is like, it does help to build and condition, So I thought of the idea of faith being tested, right, as you were speaking. And this was much earlier. I kept getting this idea of being at the crossroad, right? Being at a crossroad where you have to move forward. And that the idea of the crossroad kind of took me back to, I think it was A Deal with the Devil, presented by Key Master Menelik. And he spoke about the crossroads and people making deals with devils at the crossroad and so on. And the only reason you do that is because of lack of faith, So that was one, thought that came to me as you were talking about faith, that the necessity of being tried and tested. And maybe that trial and that testing is that walk through the valley of the shadow of death. And when you brought up that psalm, so I first thought of the fact that shepherd is that authority, right? It's the word, the Hebrew word is roe, resh, ayin, yod. And so that resh is the crown or the authority and the head, and the ayin is that eye, and yod is the hand. So and I mean, shepherd kind of tells you that. Like, you hear shepherd, of course, you're not thinking someone of low social status, but the Most High. So if the Most High is my shepherd, I will not have anything to want or desire, right? Because if I'm in alignment, I think New Life, the podcast on New Life, kind of underscores that. Like, there's this inflow that's happening. I'm going to go back to the inflow that's happening because there's an alignment with the Most High. And so if you're aligned with the Most High, there is no want. And I also think about the second line, which says, He makes me to lie down in green pastures. So that choice is not mine, but the provisions are being given to me, And there's also a visual that was very profound, the visual of the valley, because the valley also shows up in Ezekiel with the valley of dry bones. But that brought me to think about how, if you're walking through the valley of the shadow of death, that death is represented by the visual of the valley of dry bones, where people would have turned off the path. And surprisingly, like I think it's Jeremiah 56, speaks about my people have become lost sheep. Their shepherds have led them astray, and they have made them turn aside on the mountains. They have gone along from mountains to hill and have forgotten their resting place. So, I'm just thinking about how the Psalms and the different visuals connect and bring us to even Jeremiah, that shows us how, like, we become lost sheep if we're not following the shepherd, right? If we turn away or turn off of the pathway and you're led astray off of the mountain, yeah, we end up in the valley of dry bones. And I will say there are times that I have been in that place where it's like, yeah, are you a living dead? Like, yeah, because there's fear, right? There's anxiety, and those things become so oppressive that you become like dry bones, right? No inspiration, no life, no spirit. So I think that's really important to think about. And I appreciate like the share and the focusing on the idea of the shadow boxing, because the truth is we can become, we fight ourselves, or we fight these shadows, right? Thinking that it's something real, but in reality, it's, as she said, it's not even a shadow. It's not real, right? And we get caught up in it, and it becomes like a distraction, total distraction from the pathway that you're walking. And then what happens is you lose sight of what is real. You lose sight of the ability to discern when things are put in front of you. So when you see the shadow, your brain's recognizing it as an actual thing, as a fear, as a something that you need to maybe even bow down to, and that becomes your Lord, right? And when that happens, the only faith that we have is that we become a part of the valley of the dry bones. So that was my share.
Yeah, when you just even was he maketh me lie down, right? And that means one has to be in step. That one has to be in tune. And a lot of times one's anxieties, one's fears, or even sometimes depression is one like, I have to do this by myself. Right? I have to do this. So should I take this job? Should I move over here? Should I do this? And now all of a sudden I can't really even get no sleep, because now I'm thinking of all of this is good. This can go wrong. That can go wrong. Instead of, you know what? I'm just gonna be in stepping in alignment. And then and my patience. Here we go. This goes back to even boom, follows them who through faith and patience inherit the promises. I'm gonna get to the promise, but now I just have to have faith and patience. And sometimes that patience means that I'm gonna have to like, nah, chill. Nah, but this is a good opportunity, and this is the best opportunity that I've ever had, and I gotta go after it. And I gotta get this, and chill. You're gonna get there, but you seeing with your physical eyes. That's the only thing you're looking at right now. Can you do away with that shadow that somebody's presenting to you, which ultimately is going to get you where you need to be? And on the flip side of that, sometimes we get rejected, and then all of a sudden we feel like, oh, I'm so screwed up, or oh, I'm not worthy, oh, I'm not this, and oh, I'm not that. Not looking at which that old saying of often man's rejection is God's protection. I'm protecting you from something. You shouldn't even be over there. You shouldn't, you don't need, you don't belong in this situation, and you don't even see some of the things that's coming down the pipeline if you do end up going over there. But sometimes, you know what? We want what we want, and our teachings are I'm just going to go get it anyway. And then all of a sudden, put ourselves in situations that we didn't have to be in the first place if we would have just listened. And a lot of times it's then when we get older, and then always talking about hindsight is 2020. Well, now all of a sudden, if I would have just done this, you have the opportunity to do it now. Then all of a sudden that programming kicks in. Well, yeah, I'm just too young. Yeah, I'm just too. No, you can change today. Power is in the moment. What are you choosing to be in this moment? What are you choosing to do in this moment? The power of now. Learning your history, learning what's been set in front of you, learning and then not applying them today. or are you going to keep making excuses of why you can't become the person who you feel like you should become because your time is behind you? When are you going to die? When are you going to? And if you don't know, then I say you got a little time on your hands. Time to start today, to apply yourself today. Excuses only sound best to those who make them. How many times are you going to keep making excuses of why you can't be or become the person that you want to be? Why you not going, you know what, I'm not going to put my application in till I knew. Who you think, I already got to apply for something, I should just join. Like, are you going to keep making these excuses, or are you ready to become anew? Are you ready to kill yourself out of one reality to rebirth yourself into a new one? Or are you ready to come back and do this thing again? Yeah. Good luck with that. I'm out. Does anybody else want to add anything? Speak now or forever hold your peace.
Yes, I wanted to add really quickly. I'm sorry. Chief's comment about Sister Yafe's bruising and kept on cruising. She made she made an entire blooper out of it. If you don't know, go look for it. She made an entire blooper out of that. So I guess that speaks to overcoming fear and overcoming, just the fear of getting back on after having something like that happen to you. But I agree. It is in the moment. We have that opportunity in the moment. And I mean, going back to the psalm that most people call the Lord's Prayer, right? Isn't that what they call it? What they call it? Maybe not. I can't remember. Stop laughing at me. But in that one, the idea of walking, laughing at me, all right. The idea of walking, and through the psalm, you see all of the different opportunities or the different experiences. It speaks to the fact that there's choice. I think, Ima Yakira even spoke on that earlier too, as well. So when you say, yeah, it's in the moment, that change can happen in the moment, we have to be present too. And there's an important piece here too, is that wisdom, right? That walk affords us the opportunity to discern through the wisdom. And if we're not walking and maintaining that alignment, we're gonna get thrown off. We're gonna get thrown off, and not as an excuse, just like as a forewarning. Give thanks.
Right on. Koti Yafe, I saw you come off mute too. Did you want to add anything?
I was just going to say, give thanks for the build. Much appreciated.
And give thanks for joining, coming up on stage. I appreciate everybody else helping out. And sometimes it's going beyond. I'm not just going to sit back. Even when when I first heard Chief Speaks, and you start to hear somebody who is very intelligent, who is very articulate, and who is not going to let you just talk crazy of whatever little thing that you pulled out of the coin, it can become intimidating a little bit. Where, and you even heard him speak about it in the last podcast, of sometimes then him trying to act like he doesn't know something when he does know it in order to make people feel comfortable. And on the flip side of that, though, it's like, yeah, I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to sit back and, I'm just soaking it in. But in order for one to go beyond where they're at this current, you're going to have to get in the ring. And that doesn't mean, and it ain't like, oh yeah, I'm challenging your ideas and all of that, because your arms are too short to box with God. But in the sense of, though, going beyond what one might be afraid of, or going beyond a certain circumstances, I don't want to say anything dumb. I don't want to know. I don't want to show people probably how ignorant I am of a certain situation. But at some point in time, you're going to say, you know what, though? I can't keep living like this. I can't keep living in the shadow or in the darkness that's ultimately weighing me down and not letting me become nice and light. I can't keep doing this. In order for me to do that, then that means that now I'm going to have to come to the stage. My legs are going to shake. My voice might crack. My heart might start to raise and elevate. And sometimes I might just come off like I got Tourette and Titicaca, like say something crazy. But I'm going to work through it, though. It ain't getting over it. What's the whole Michael Jackson song where he said it's too high to get over and it's too low to get under? And you feel like you're stuck in the middle because you have to go through it. You can't pick one of the wheels and stay on the outside because there's no balance out there. You got to work your way to the center where you can now achieve some balance and then ultimately get off the wheel. But for one to do that, now you have to walk through the valley of the shadow of death. And that means that you got to kill what you think you know about yourself. The identity that you think you have built up into this particular time. The identity that you have ultimately showed to other people that you may now have to get on the platform and say, I don't know what I thought I did know, but I'm ready to unlearn, to relearn, to become I knew. You have to be willing to let that ego go, and you have to be willing to move forward. And that means that you have to enter into the fight. It becomes a fight. But are you willing to put your gloves on and do the things that you need to do in order to become the person that you were called to be? All right, so thank you all for being here today. Thank you all for your comments, for everybody joining. And we'll be back next Sunday for another Midday Affirmative. Anu Nation, out.
Give thanks. Peace.